Um, you took part at some of the recruitment processes that you had at PWC, right?
Yeah.
So can you tell us a bit more? How did your recruitment process go? What are the things that made PwC want to hire you, and what are the things that you noticed that stand out the most in the hiring process?
Yes, I think the hiring process itself is pretty standard for most graduate schemes. You know, you fill out, it might have changed over the past couple of years, but you basically fill out an online application. You then do some online tests like a maths test and a psychometric test, you know, personality test. If you pass those, you're then invited typically to a assessment day, an assessment center, where you do, you know, group exercise, an interview, and a case study. Following that would be a partner interview, which is kind of the final step, and then you have the job. As you progress throughout the process, it starts off quite technical in terms of those tests and case study. But when you get to the end, the final partner interview, it's actually, people are very surprised by it because it's not very technical, and it's more like having a chat. For example, the partner wants to see if they can put you in front of a client and you'll be able to, you know, talk to them or hold a conversation and stuff. So as you progress throughout, it gets less technical and more people focused. In terms of, and just before I go into particular skills, I think actually it's a really good time to be joining the Big Four. I think if you're applying to the Big Four now, your chances are probably slightly higher. And the reason for that is they've won a hell of a lot of work over the past, particularly in the UK, 3 or 4 years. And there's more work to be done than people to do it. There's a couple of reasons for that. When I joined 2-3 years ago, well, a bit longer than that, recruitment was kind of not frozen, but massively reduced because they were worried about Brexit and the impact that Brexit would have.
Okay.
But actually, they won a lot more business. And so they won more business, and then kind of the intake or the amount of staff reduced. And so now most of the Big Four are in a real struggle of trying to get more talent and more people into the company. So I think it's a really good time to join. I think your chances are probably quite good joining now. And in terms of the skills, like I said, you're not expected to be an accounting expert. You're not expected to be an accounting whiz. When I joined, I hardly knew anything about accounting. You know, I knew the financial statements. I knew how a company worked. I didn't know that much about it. But I think it's all about display. They want people that are ambitious, people that work hard, and people. You know, they want people that are good with people. So in terms of the skills, just as long as you have a passion for business, you have kind of an analytical mindset, you like problem solving, you work well under kind of stress and tight deadlines, and at the same time, you know, you're good working with people and a good communicator. I think if you tick those off, you've kind of done it, to be honest.
Okay. So what are the so in the hiring process, did you have some something that stood out? What are the kind of behaviors that stand out in the hiring process, in the interviews, and what are the things that you should not do at all in the hiring process?
Yeah, definitely. There's kind of tips for each stage of the process. So I'll kind of summarize it. A lot when you do your initial tests, you know, your maths test, you just got to do your maths test. You've got to be good at maths, but there's loads of practice exams online. But one thing is the next stage is the psychometric tests, which test your personality and if you're suited to the role. What a lot of people tend to do is to kind of pick the answers you think will get you the job rather than kind of actually reflecting your personality. And this is bad for a couple of reasons, because it's determining the fit. You know, if your skill set and personality will be a good fit for the job. And if you're trying to be someone you're not, and you end up getting the job, you might not enjoy the job. You know, it might not be right for you. So I'd say, you know, it's a pretty obvious one, I guess, but, you know, don't lie. You know, just be you, be honest with yourself and your personality and stuff like that. When you get to the assessment center, a lot of people, and I talk about this in one of my videos actually, a lot of people in the group exercise, so there's like 4 or 5 of you in the group exercise and you've got to work through a particular case. A lot of people see it as a competition and they'll try and kind of talk over one another, or try and interrupt or criticize, or people want to be loud and be the leader. But one thing people fail to realize is that every single person in that group exercise can get the job. The big four are large enough that everyone can get the job. It's not a one person or no one. It's everyone can get it. So it's a lot. I'd recommend being really kind of focused on that team working element, a lot of cooperation. If you see someone that's not, a bit shy or a bit nervous, try and invite them into the conversation and stuff like that. The case study, there's a hell of a lot of material out there on the case study, but it's typically, a failing business, or they want to enter a new market, they're exiting a market or something like that. You're going to be given a hell of a lot of data. You're going to give them too much data to read through in a time, you've been given, because essentially you have to read through a massive booklet and you have to summarize, you have to produce a report summarizing kind of what the issue is, what the recommendations you do. Most people spend far too long delving into the data, and then when they don't actually write much on the report, that's the whole thing. You've got to really, it's a skill being able to quickly read through the data, picking out what's relevant and quickly writing it down, summarizing it. So tip there is don't get lost in the data. And then for the final interviews, like I said, they're not expecting you to be accounting experts, right? You're straight out of university. You're not going to know anything or too much about it. It's about your people skills. So once again, just be you, be as kind of engaged and interested in the conversation as much as you can.